Welcome to Cal's Cinema. This is Excalibur. How hard is it to bring the legend of King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table to a film? That's what we'll be looking at with this video in 1981's Excalibur. And hopefully you'll actually get to see this video after I ran into a copyright claim with my last one on RRR. But like Percival, I shall persevere. And along with that bravery and courage is to me what springs to mind when I think of what I know, although probably not all that much, on King Arthur. The film, which is over 40 years old now at the time of making this video, delivers what was for the time, as we'll see, an edgier, darker take on the lore of the boy who would become king. So if movies on mythology and legend are your thing, make sure you're subscribed to see that and much more in future videos.
There you are! That was easy too, wasn't it?
From what I can best tell after a 3 AM rabbit hole dive down Wikipedia, the Arthurian Legend as we know it today is made from a patchwork of different tales and works from various authors spanning from the 12th to the 15th century, and collectively are part of a wider body of literature popular in those times called The Matter of Britain, which sounds like the title of a sitcom if it was written by Nigel Farage. The film itself is loosely based on Le Morte d'Arthur by Thomas Malory. Anyway, the point is that of course Arthur Pendragon almost certainly didn't exist, which is why Excalibur is free to be about as historically accurate as Monty Python's The Holy Grail.
No, on second thoughts, let's not go to Camelot. It is a silly place.
More on that later. The film, which was directed by John Berman, starts off with Arthur's father Uther, Miller's Crossing's Tom Regan, Gabriel Byrne, waging war to become the one true king of Britain, aided by wizard Merlin, The Exorcist III's Father Morning, Nicol Williamson, who wears this rather fetching metal helmet for no real reason other than it looks cool. Merlin grants Uther Excalibur, a sword with mystical powers, including casting a green eerie glow on everything, which definitely doesn't come from some giant light with a filter on it off screen. Uther succeeds and is crowned king, but then gets incredibly hot under his armour when he sees his enemy, the Duke of Cornwall's wife Igraine, Catherine Berman, played by the director's daughter, weird, dance like this.
Must have her, and risk everything you've won.
And in true kingly fashion, he just has to have her, no matter what the cost, even if it undoes everything he's achieved in unifying the land. He has Merlin disguise him as the Duke and seduce her, which is how little Arthur is conceived. Meanwhile, the real Duke dies in battle and Uther's deception is uncovered. Sometime later, probably safe to say 9 months now that I think about it, Arthur is born and Merlin takes him away in the hope that he can one day succeed where his father has failed as the king that unites Britain and brings peace.
Are you the mother and father of the baby now, Merlin?
I want my baby! Get him back!
Yeah, he just casually walks out of the castle holding a newborn baby. Uther is ambushed by what's left of the Duke's men as he chases after Merlin, and as he dies, he thrusts Excalibur into a stone. For years after, knights and other warriors try to pull the sword from the stone to be crowned king, but all fail, until a grown Arthur, played by Caravaggio's Nigel Terry, who has been raised in secrecy as a squire, pulls the sword with ease.
I saw what I saw! The boy drew the sword. If a boy has been chosen, a boy shall be king!
Yes, that's Star Trek The Next Generation's Picard, Patrick Stewart there as King Leo de Grance, and Belfast's Pop, Kieran Hines to his side as King Lot. Other notable cast members include Winchester's Sarah Winchester, Helen Mirren as Arthur's half-sister Morgan Le Fay, Taken's Brian Mills, Liam Neeson as Gawain, The Hound of the Baskervilles' Jack Stapleton, Nicholas Clay as Lancelot, Keeping Up Appearances' Richard, Clive Swift as Hector, Mary Shelley's Frankenstein's Baroness Frankenstein, Cherie Lungi as Guinevere, and Grey Stokes' Jack Clayton, Paul Joffrey as Percival. And now that the setup and cast for Excalibur has been covered, now is a good place to include the usual spoiler warning. So if you've not seen the film, feel free to watch it now and then come back to this video before it's too late.
Too late.
What follows Arthur's ascension to the throne is his forming of Camelot and the Knights of the Round Table, including Lancelot, and his marriage to Guinevere, before apparently skipping most of his reign and getting to his undoing at the hands and body of his own sister.
Sweet lord, you ponied your sister.
Morgan disguises herself as Guinevere after Lancelot makes a total cock out of Arthur by first defending the lady's honour in a joust, after Gawain calls them out for having an affair, which they hadn't had yet, and then he goes and bangs her anyway, after having the shit knocked out of him for that very thing. Before Arthur eventually regains his senses after some wibbly-wobbly metaphorical stuff about Percival finding the Holy Grail and uncovering the secret that Arthur and the land are one, whatever that means, he goes all King Theoden on his throne in Camelot, and it's no wonder with all the stuff that he's been through.
He's been through a lot.
Including his own sister.
This serves to make way for the short-lived Antichrist-like figure of the story, Mordred. In Arthur fighting his own son and while defeating him dying himself, the film spans the entire course of Arthur's life, and in its 2 hours 20-minute runtime, it should feel epic, but it suffers from uneven pacing, some dodgy acting, and even miscasts such as Arthur himself. Nigel Terry does what he can with the role, including an odd choice to change Arthur's accent as the film progresses, but besides this, every character in the film feels largely undeveloped, probably because of the vast cast and the long time frame that it covers. Merlin, arguably the second most important character, switches between being used for comic relief and providing foreboding prophecies to further the plot, which don't quite work together. The practical effects are undoubtedly dated, including the use of that off-screen lighting to signify magic, and oddly cropped shots serve to cover the small scale of the sets, which when aren't in nature look incredibly fake, especially those set at Camelot, which for some reason is made out of giant blocks of aluminium. This is where the film is especially reminiscent of the production quality of Monty Python's The Holy Grail, made 6 years earlier.
I can tell you nothing. My days are ended. The gods of once are gone, forever.
So, what's the verdict on Excalibur? Well, for those reasons, despite the interesting story of Arthur's life, the film largely falls flat, and if anything shows that La Mort to Arthur is due for the modern adaptation.
Right, 10 digits, round the blunt bit, give it a tug. Left foot, right foot, collect your brand, back on the barge.
Make that a faithful modern adaptation that the story deserves. Given its subject matter, the 1981 film should easily be a mesmerising and engrossing watch, but the entire production feels false and lacking, and altogether a bit of a mess. Excalibur sadly gets a less than spellbinding 5.7 out of 10.
I am nothing.
What did you think of Excalibur? Am I being too harsh on the fantasy epic, or do you agree that it could use a modern adaptation? You can let me know in the comments, and be sure to like, subscribe, and come back to Cal's Cinema.